Hey there, welcome back to Tabletop Witchcraft. This week I'm going to be doing a bonus video in addition to my weekly build videos. I'm going to try and work these in every now and then, and if you hear me say the word bonus in any of these, it's typically going to be a video that I'm going to try and release probably on a Tuesday or Wednesday before my typical Friday release build video. So I'm going to try and tackle a request that I've got from a lot of people, and it's what are the basic tools that you need to start crafting. Now, it is super easy to get carried away and blow paychecks on crafting supplies and materials. Or you can go the other route and start out slow, which is what I recommend. Just get some of the essentials and start out some easy crafts, some easy builds. You know, see if you even like it, see if you enjoy doing it. You know, some aspects of this can get a little tedious, can get a little frustrating. So stepping in slowly is a good way to start. So with that, the way I approach this video is, okay, I got a new build coming out. I'm heading downstairs to the studio for the first time. And, you know, what's the first tool that I'm gonna have to use or take up and work with here? Now, I'm not basing this video on XPS foam. I'm doing a foam building, or I'm doing something out of resin, or I'm doing something out of clay. I'm basing this on, you know, typically, no matter what the media is that I'm working with, what tools do I need to use and what do I recommend for a beginner? With that being said, the very first thing that I usually always go to is some sort of cutting tool. The Alpha knife and an X-Acto for more precision cuts are extremely important. I use these, doesn't matter what I'm building, whether it's cutting foam or I'm cutting a package open, having this stuff around is really nice. Super easy to change the blades out in the X-Acto, same with the Alpha knife. And the thing you gotta be careful about with this is it is extremely sharp. I have cut myself a few times on this. I have it on film, debating on whether or not I should do a blooper film with that on it. I don't know, I cringe every time I see it. But this is great for cutting through whether it's, you know, 1/2 inch XPS foam all the way up to 2 inch or even more. So it's really good, good tool to have. Very versatile. All right, the next item here is some sort of measuring device, right? So I keep a tiny little tape measure on my desk. It's a 6-foot tape measure. You know, I'm not working with anything bigger than that. So this is used all the time in every single one of my videos. I use this, and I also use this framing square. I use it a lot in conjunction with the Proxxon, which, believe it or not, is not part of this video. I definitely don't recommend picking one of them up right out of the gate. That'll be another whole video all by itself. So the framing square is great for, you know, cutting cardboard, getting some nice square cuts if you're cutting foam. And in conjunction with the Alpha knife can be used to make, like I said, some really good cuts. But what I recommend doing, and you'll see on this framing square, I've got a lot of skips on this where you'll see some gouges coming into it. And it's because when you're cutting with the Alpha knife, if you're not perfectly square or perpendicular to the edge on this, it'll cut an edge, it'll grab an edge, and it'll ride up over onto the framing square. So when you use these two together, don't press really hard. Do a bunch of multiple cuts, nice and light. Keeping sure that the Alpha knife is perpendicular to the framing square, and you'll be all set. It wouldn't hurt to honestly wear a glove on your offhand when you're doing these types of cuts, just to be safe. I might start doing that. I should take my own advice. So, okay, so we got some measuring devices here. The next would be, you hear me say it in a lot of my videos, is clay sculpting tool. You can get this right here, this pack of clay sculpting tools, and there's even a few more. I just didn't grab them out of my drawer. I think it's like 11 bucks on Amazon. In the description below in this video, most of these items I'll have links to, so you can go check that out. I use these all the time, some more so than others, but these are extremely valuable. You know, I've bent these over the years. Like, some of these are all twisted and warped, but you can bend them back into place, super glue pieces back together if you have to. Really good stuff to have. Next is wire cutters, pliers, different variations of them too, because you're going to want to cut at some point paper clips, stuff like that. You want a heavy duty pair of wire cutters. You can get these fine, almost like jeweler wire cutters. You do not want to cut paper clips with these. I did that years ago with my first set. I was all excited. I was getting ready to base some minis, and I took these to a pair of, well, not these, a different pair, to some paper clips, and it looked like shark teeth on these things when I was done. So you want a couple good pairs of wire cutters, some fine point needle nose pliers here as well, help with the smaller parts of the crafting. In the background here, you can see I made this little stand where all these tools fit. It was originally supposed to be something that was holding all my paintbrushes, but that got out of control. I have so many different style and types of paintbrushes. Most of them very cheap for what we're doing here. I got some really nice ones for miniature painting that I keep in here. My Winsor & Newton paintbrushes, but other than those few that I don't want to get messed up, this is really just for tools. So the jig that I made here, I have a little stencil for it. I'll put that also in a description below where you can go ahead and download that if you're interested. It'll just give you an idea of where to make all your different cuts if you want to go ahead and build this yourself. Essentially, you're going to take two pieces of wood or MDF board, sandwich them together, and make your cuts all the way through both. And then on the bottom of that, I put a small piece of wood or something like that to hold it in place. And all your tools here will fit real nice in that. Real easy to have. You know, I've got lots of drawers around here. That'll be another video where I'll probably show, you know, my whole studio. But the things that I use all the time, you got to have them right out here. You can't be going to a drawer every single time. You got to grab something. All right, next. We got some pens, pencils, markers, all different variations. Fat markers, skinny ones, pens, pencils. Believe it or not, there's reasons for having all these different ones. Whether you're tracing out a stencil, you're adding, you know, wood grain for some XPS foam, you're marking out just, you know, dimensions on something that you have to cut. All this stuff is very important to have an assortment of pens and pencils. All right, what do we got next? Q-tips, extremely important. Q-tips and toothpicks. Constantly working with a lot of really small things just to grab something that's disposable, whether you're messing with glue or, you know, you got to poke a hole in something, or if you're using two pieces of XPS foam, you want to sandwich them together with a little extra support. I know I wasn't getting into specifics here, but toothpicks, extremely helpful. Q-tips, again, for cleaning up little messes. Extra glue. If you got to put a little extra paint on something and you don't want to dirty a whole paintbrush, just a little dab of paint on that. Super important. All right, so the next two items I'm going to get out of the way. And when I told my brother I was going to do this video, he looked at me and he said, "You're going to tell people that those are essential items?" And I said, "Yeah." I use these every single time I craft, every time. And one of them actually is kind of becoming a little bit of a sentimental piece for me. We'll get to that in just a second. But next is yogurt containers. These, I have two kids and my wife and myself, and we eat yogurt all the time. And I looked at these one day and we were just, you know, washing them out and recycling them. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm buying cups, I'm buying all this stuff to, you know, mix resin, mix flocking and glue for, you know, moss and moss effects and stuff like that, or for making a rust mixture. And I'm going through all these containers. And I said, these are perfect. They're sturdy, they're plastic, they're not gonna, you know, absorb moisture and then leak like a paper cup would. So I started saving these things. I have so many more than this. I just took a stack out for the video. If you can eat yogurt, or you know somebody that does, start saving these things. They are worth their weight in gold. Absolutely love them. So yogurt containers, yes, I said it. I'm talking to you, Nathaniel. All right. And this is the big one that he said that he couldn't believe I was going to mention, and it is a piece of cardboard. So this is extremely important for me because I am a very neat crafter, and I've got a couple of, I guess I'll tie this into another important piece or tool that you should definitely pick up, and it's a Fiskars cutting mat. I've got two different types of cutting mats that I use in my video. They're both self-healing. You definitely want to pick up one of those because you will absolutely destroy whatever work surface you're on. Hopefully it's not a kitchen table or a counter or something like that. Pick yourself up a really good 24 by 36 inch cutting mat. Description below. But on top of that is cardboard. And I don't use this all the time. You know, when I'm crafting, it's straight on the cutting mat. But when I go to Mod Podge something, when I go to pour resin, when I'm spray painting or I'm doing a batch paint on something, this goes over my cutting mat. The cutting mats are very useful because they've got a 1-inch grid on them, and some of them are sectioned off into 1/4 inch, and I use those a lot when I'm measuring, and I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to have the whole thing filled up with glue and paint and then I can't see what I'm working with. So I pull this out. I have had this one piece for over 6 months, or well over 6 months. And it's almost like a shield. I mean, it's so hard. It's got resin on it, glue, all kinds of stuff. And so yeah, anyway, I'm spending a lot of time on a piece of cardboard, but very important to have. In the comments below, you know what? Leave a name what I should name this thing, because I'm going to kind of hang on to it for as long as I can. And maybe I'll write the name right across it. And you'll see that in the upcoming video. All right, so we have the cutting mats, my cardboard. Next, we're going to get into some glue. Obviously, it's very important. There's all kinds of different glues and resins out there. You don't need them all. But what I do recommend is tacky glue. Definitely pick up a thing of that. And there's just some regular PVA glue. Just your regular craft Elmer's glue here. Very important. What you see in every one of crafters' videos nowadays is Mod Podge. This could be used for glue, but it's used as a protective coating over a lot of XPS builds. So I definitely recommend picking up some of this. Next is some aluminum foil, extremely important for texturing. A lot of our builds we work with stone, wood. You can do all kinds of stuff with this. So you definitely want to pick up some aluminum foil. And then for me, one of the most underrated kitchen items as well is parchment paper. I use this stuff all the time. Nothing sticks to it, or almost nothing sticks to it. And you know, whether you got to do a quick paint job on something, you rip a section of this off, put it on your table, you can put your paints right onto it, and you got a really decent amount of time before it goes through. You're working with clay, you're working with anything. I always go through this stuff. I'm always going upstairs and stealing it from the kitchen because I'm always running out of it. Real quick, back to the glue. Hot glue gun. You want to pick up a hot glue gun. It doesn't matter the size really. I got the small one. I got a big one here as well. Grab yourself a decent glue gun. Both of these I like. They're very handy. So yeah, glue gun, pretty standard item. Let's see, what do we got next? And then it looks like finally we got right here is just something to seal your craft when you're done. You spend a lot of time on all this stuff and you want it to last for as long as it can. So typically what I use is a Krylon matte finish spray paint or sealer, and I also have a gloss version depending on what you're working on here. It's good for both terrain and miniatures as well. So that's pretty much the basics here of what you need to get crafting. On top of all that, grab yourself some foam, some cardboard, whatever you have laying around, and with those items you should be able to craft pretty much most standard stuff out there, buildings or whatever you can kind of come up with your imagination. So yeah, all right, that's pretty much it. Till next time, I'll see you around.